Hey everybody, good morning. So really excited to be here and moderate this very important panel. And we have some luminaries on stage here and a very nice panel with two folks from insurance companies. And I'll let them introduce themselves immediately. And of course, two from finance. And we want to hear all about what it takes to move AI to production. So this panel is pretty focused on not just the pilots and the cool case study. We're really focused on what it takes to move AI use case to production, right? So I think the gap between AI ambition and AI operations is where I believe this panel is going to live for the next 30 minutes. And let's hope that you can take off some good insights from this panel. So maybe we just start off with very quick introductions. I just want an introduction to have maybe your name, role, and maybe one sentence on what your organization doing in AI, right? Sort of as a highlight, if you can share that. We'll start with Madhukar.
Thanks. Hello. Audible?
Hi, Pete.
So this is Madhukar. I globally had data and AI for Securities Services, which means the data and AI strategy, data and AI products and governance. And on top of that, right from the design to the execution is what we have consolidated. Specifically, our focus this year has been to move from experimentation to industrialization of AI. We have been doing a lot of pilots, a lot of POCs for the last 2 years. We have been focusing on building the data foundation, building the processes to be future ready, as well as our key focus has been to also getting our digital channels ready to distribute our utilities internally and externally. And that's where we have now moved on to. So we have overlaid an AI strategy on top of data strategy end of last year. And our vision for the next 3 years is how we can completely go autonomous, specifically in security services industry. We have some colleagues and clients of HSBC as well here. Idea is that how we can really use AI in that sense that we can go autonomous, but also have our right controls in place and the governance to make sure that we are not impacting or taking any risks which can hurt us.
Thank you. Thanks, Madhukar. Maybe a production from Fan and then giving and Paddy.
Hello everyone, I'm Fan from Income Insurance. I'm leading the AI Center of Excellence at Income. This year, our focus is on be implementing AI for in operations, more particularly in claims processing, so that we can improve also customer experience in the claims journey.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Wei Ming. I head Enterprise Analytics at AIA. So what we do is quite similar. It's the Analytics CoE for the Singapore LB. The focus for this year, we are concentrating on 4 main business areas: customer, distribution, health, medical. So and there are many various types of use cases analytics. Whether is it traditional ML, GenAI that we are implementing to really try to see some value out of our data that we have been painstakingly collecting for many years. So that's to transform data into value.
Thank you. Paddy.
Hi, I'm Paddy from OCBC Group Data Office. For me, I think the main focus is in 2 areas. So first is basically, we recently introduced a new strategy for a corporate strategy called Next Frontier. And as part of that particular Next Frontier strategy, the core focus is going to be ADD, which is AI, digital, and data. So I think we're not necessarily looking at AI or data on its own, but then you always need to go out and look at integrating it across the entire value stream. So that's basically where the digital thing comes together, right? And that's basically one of the key areas of focus. The second thing is mainly in terms of workforce transformation. Like the kind of change with AI is, at the pace is very unprecedented right now. So the workforce within the organization may not necessarily be able to move at the same pace with the industry or the kind of transformation that is coming out of the big players. A lot of roles are going to be displaced or replaced. So we need working with HR, learning and transformation in terms of how do we build that particular capable workforce and start really looking at the workforce of tomorrow. What does it look like with AI co-workers, right? So that's 2 of the key areas.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Paddy. So I think really exciting topics to discuss. So what I'll do is I'll kind of cover this panel in 4 different sections, right? So we'll talk about data foundations, which are fundamental We'll talk about how we scale from pilots to production. We'll talk about the agentic AI hype. Just want to make sure that, are we getting it right? What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What should we be doing? And then we'll talk about talent and workforce, and keen to get your thoughts at that point. So maybe we'll start off with the most important, or one of the most important foundations, right? So where every AI project either succeeds or fails, the data foundations. So maybe if you can sort of talk to me about what has your organization learned about getting the data foundations right. Does everything need to be right before we start AI? Can we start simultaneously? Can you maybe just going in the same order, right? Or maybe we just start from Paddy and come back here. If you can maybe keep your answers to like 45 seconds, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah, that's I probably pace it through. But okay, so I think one of the key important things to go and consider is saying, okay, you're never going to have enough data, right? You will never really need to go ahead and bring all of the data that you need, dump it into a data lake and everything. Yes, it probably makes your data KPIs look good to go and say, we got 100% of all of the critical data elements. We have 100% of all of the particular data domains mapped, and we have that particular information, but it's never going to be enough, right? I mean, the systems are always going to be, updated. You're going to go and have new processes. It's going to generate new set of data. So there's always going to be that particular gap. So trying to go ahead and aim for a magic KPI is never going to go ahead and solve the particular problem. I think the main thing is when you go ahead and design your data foundations, I think it has to be very intentional to go ahead and really determine in terms of, okay, what exactly are the things that is really needed in terms of making maybe 70% of your use cases in flight much faster, right? And then you can continue to go ahead and build those additional pipelines as needed, and then bring in that particular data as you need for the particular use case. But I think if you're able to go ahead and say that, okay, look, this is the base that is needed, which can help me in terms of accelerating my journey by 30% or 40%, and this is basically what I need, I think that's a big win.
Thank you. Thanks, buddy.
I think for the insurance industry, there are a core set of data that we always collect, claims or a bit of customer feedback, things like that. So what we want to do more is to collect more information, right? And we have to be really deliberate about it because it is a purposeful collection. So in EIA, we have been asking ourselves a lot, like what exactly is the right data? And we really go down to really asking a lot of questions and try to decide if this data is actually answering the questions that we are trying to address. Because actually for insurance company, collecting data is not always that easy. And so when we do that, right, we do that with a very strict purpose. Especially when it comes to health data, people don't throw health data at you for no reason. We have to offer exemptions and things like that. So it becomes very purposeful. So this journey of getting the right data starts for asking the right questions internally, and then we go out and acquire the things that we need to complement our current processes.
Thank you.
I'm going to augment the answers with two examples. I think I also believe building data foundation and AI use needs to happen in parallel. The reason is that one example, Income has been running a quite big cross-sell, upsell machine learning pipeline for the past 4 or 5 years. But even until today, we are looking for partnership with, for example, banks or retails just to look for new data, because we do believe that it can improve the model performance significantly by using new data instead of building new models. Okay, another example is that when we built GenAI use case, we realized that we actually do not have a central place to store all unstructured data. So building use case itself is a way of discover what data we should connect, just to, especially unstructured data, right? Whether the data is in the right format, the AI model can consume, because very much we believe that PDF documents is useful for human, but it's not useful for large language models. So I totally agree that with two of the gentlemen here, that these two needs to evolve progressively together.
Thank you.
Thanks. I believe data as a foundation has been there for last 10, 20 years, right? So what has really changed, and if somebody is starting now, is that you need to make sure that you have data operational. I totally agree with Paddy. There cannot be 100% data available. You can collect like 20% of your critical data element and say that I can serve my 80% of the use cases. But in the current day and age, you don't need to look for standardized data. I mean, you have now tools to extract all the unstructured data, get the standardized information from that. What you need to make sure is you have the right data strategy in place, and you have the modern cloud native architecture so that data is operational and it's easy to bring in from all the data sources as and when required. And as and when it gets loaded in, it is also easy to distribute that data through multiple direct and indirect channels. If you have that, then it serves the purpose to then operationalize your data layer, your knowledge layer, and then you can put all that AI on top of it very easy. And that's what we have been doing in HSBC for the last 2 years, and it has been serving us well. And lastly, I also want to add, I mean, data as such obviously is not without any data quality. So what we have done is also to categorize data in different categories, right? So there is transactional and client positions data. Then there is data for your operational and KPI needs. There is data for reporting, and then there is financial data for your own internal finance, cost, revenue, all those analysis, cross-sell, upsell kind of analysis. So you need to know your business objectives across data and then categorize it. And HSBC, I mean, we work in 56 markets. We have like 40 odd systems where the data are coming from. So it's all about how we make it a very seamless process to consume data from internal and external system, and then easy to distribute in a normal channel.
On the board. Thank you. So I mean, I guess the takeaway from you guys said is getting the data right is an ongoing journey, right? So there's no perfect time to get started. I think that speaks summary, right? Obviously, at some point you have to move. So how do you start scaling from AI pilots or POCs into production? So what kind of separates the ones that make it into production versus those use cases that just quietly disappear? I'll start with maybe Fan, right?
I think the good examples of how we deliver or deploy pilot into production is more about the readiness of the organization in many dimensions. It's not only technical solutions. It's the infra, it's the operating models, it's the peer ownership across the organization. As in who build it, who is the person to prove that it can be deployed. It is so. The successful stories is more now around traditional AI models. So those are the ones that we have clear answer of who should approve them, because people are more confident that it's going to bring the benefits. While the not so successful ones are still GenAI. Those more because, for example, those questions like ownership of the use case across the organization is not yet clear. Operating model is not yet ready. So both positive and negative. Yeah.
Thank you. Adi, how about in Citizen?
I think I agree with what Final said, right? To a large extent, I think we already heard some of these particular topics being shared by Wicked, the audit, right? But he was sharing about the trust and all of that. I think it boils down to the kind of governance structures that we go and have. So we work with a particular team. So we are a center of excellence. So we have data scientists, we have data engineers, we have all of the AI roles within our function. So when business units reach out to us and they say, look, I want to go out and do AI, they're just basically throwing a particular problem at you and then say, yes, this is something that we need to go out and solve. But they don't necessarily go ahead and really see in terms of, okay, are we really AI ready as a process, as an operating model, from a risk management, from a compliance point of view and everything, right? Take a holistic assessment. So I think that's basically one of those particular things which is quite often overlooked. So you might be able to go ahead and start a particular project because a particular business stakeholder is asking for it. You go ahead and start building AI POCs. The POCs should give you excellent results, right? But then what people don't understand is that bridge between a POC to productionization is probably 100-mile journey, right? Where you have to start looking at all of those particular aspects. Yeah. You might go out and do a POC for one small area, which probably is just maybe 2% of your entire volumes that you're handling, right? Is that particular AI capability that you're implementing, is it addressing the entire problem or only a subset of it? What does the unit economics look like? Do we have significant amount of volumes that I can actually go ahead and support? Does it really require AI? Because some of those times a business might basically go ahead and say, look, I need this particular capability. If it is very deterministic in nature, can you go ahead and implement a rule-based RPA solution instead of an AI solution? I think these are the kind of often overlooked aspects of identifying the particular problem. And if you're able to go ahead and do this particular evaluation in a better manner, right, and at a very early stage, you may not even actually have to go ahead and call it a failed project, right? Because it may not necessarily be a project in the first place. Right? So not doing AI for the sake of doing AI, I think that is number one. The second aspect of this entire problem that we've got to face in terms of, okay, the pilot to production challenge is people don't necessarily go ahead and evaluate the entire value chain, right? So when you start really looking at implementing an AI solution at just one part of an entire process, is that really transforming that particular process? Are you reimagining that? Probably not, right? So there is not an incentive for people to go ahead and really use it. They might actually go ahead and use something outside of the solution that you are providing there, right? So I think it's extremely important for any particular AI use case to look at how exactly it fits into that entire value chain. And is it transforming, or is it just basically sprinkling some AI fairy dust on one part of the particular process?
Got it. Thank you. Thanks, Paddy and Fun. I think it's a good bridge to our next topic. You also touched on some automation and RPA and other things. So I want to sort of start talking about agentic AI, which I believe is on everybody's mind. So many of your organizations are probably implementing a flavor of it. So I want to hear about, and really from everybody this time, right? So what are you seeing in practice? Is it really a genuine shift in what we're doing? So I want to hear your thoughts. So maybe start with Madhukar.
Yeah, people don't make the right distinction between agentic AI and agentic workflow and just a pure agent, right? And I think industry is still struggling with that to understand what agentic AI is. And I'll start by saying, if you talk about true agentic AI, you are really giving power for AI to act on behalf of humans. And just in the previous panel, we were talking about being nervous about not putting humans in the loop, have complete trust on the AI or not, right? So if you talk about pure agentic AI, you just don't care about how. You only care about what. You only care about why. And then you just tell that what not to do and what to do. And then the AI does everything. Yeah, it does you, right? So what we really are in the space, according to me, as an industry, is we are just exploring orchestration of the agents who can do different tasks with basic intelligence and the learning put in. There are 5 key elements of an agentic AI. So it's some perception, planning, action, control, and there's learning, right? So we are not automating all 5, right? So we are still putting humans in between, and control is a big piece where humans still need to be. And that's where we are going very conservative at the moment. We are mostly working for internalized use cases where we want to automate our operational processes. We want to reduce our operational workloads. Exception management is a very big use case. So we are HSBC, in my own area, we are trying to use AI as much as possible because that's one area which is less risky and which is very heavy operationally. Other area is the client onboarding and client servicing, where we really believe that we can completely use AI to do a straight processing. But as again in the previous panel, we are talking about where it is financial transactional journeys, where there is a financial impact, where there is a regulatory impact, we are still a bit conservative in that.
Thank you, Madhukar. Any other facets of the insurance space that both of you can touch on, maybe slightly different points than what he talked about, like exception management? Yes.
I think in income, what we have seen is that, for example, agentic coding has been quite widely used. I believe in most of the tech companies, it's also the case that developers, testers, even PAs are using agentic coding tools. So more because it can be verified whether the code is running or not. It's very clear cut. But then in other fields, I also totally agree with Madhukar that in this high risk field, we are quite careful. For example, claims processing, health claims, involves like validation of the documents and checking out the coverage of the benefit in your policy and making claims decisions, because the stake of anything goes wrong is too high for insurance, and we do not want to appear tomorrow on the newspapers saying that, hey, you are using AI to decide and decline my claims. So those high risk fields, we haven't really implemented fully automatic agentic AI yet. But I mean, personally, I believe that it has strong potential, just that it needs to be careful.
Thank you. Thanks, Pant.
I think I'll give you a quick share with me. I think one of the things that we are struggling with is really to decide on the proper use case. Because can you just imagine, I'm talking about autonomous agents. So if I use autonomous agents to answer my emails, and then if you also use autonomous agents to answer the email. So basically we are just automating the email. We are not automating the communication, which is not solving the underlying problem. This is not quite the same as autonomous cars, where it's solving the logistical issue of moving someone over, right? So I think what we really want is, if I were to implement autonomous agent, then I want it to solve some underlying, like a deeper problem. And that's where I think that we have this little, like, experimental, our coders can use agents to code. These little things are popping up. But a true use case that can really change the business, we haven't really found that use case, unfortunately.
Thank you. Patty, how would you?
So I think we had some great success, right? And again, we've done agentic AI solutions with client onboardings. We have something called Source of Wealth, which basically was one of the first agentic AI solutions out in the market, which allows in terms of like a faster onboarding of customers. You don't necessarily need to go ahead and prepare their Source of Wealth reports and everything. So I won't touch upon that, because then that's basically one use case specific view, right? But again, going back to what Fan and others were mentioning earlier as well, that we have to be intentional about what type of use cases that we want to go ahead and select. So in our capacity, at least what we're going to see, because we're a bank, we have relationship management, advisory related activities, which require a lot of research to be conducted and insights to be provided to the customers. In those particular cases, yes, agentic AI helps. Imagine you have 1,000 different reports which are research related to a particular product, or you want to go ahead and check whether it is suitable for a particular customer. You want to go ahead and look at strategies for rebalancing that particular customer's portfolio. You want to prepare a particular meeting deck where the particular advisor is going to meet the particular customer. So it's the entire process, right from identifying a particular prospect to initiating a conversation to meeting the particular customer, readjusting their portfolio and everything. So that's the entire journey. So rather than one single use case, what we've done is we've mapped out the entire journey and built maybe 5 use cases, but each one of them is related to the other, right? So I think that is one of those things which really is something that we need to go out and look at. The second area is basically to go out and start thinking about, okay, what are some of the high stakes use cases that we want to go out and look at, right? Like extremely complex ones. We're a bank. We do balance sheet optimization in our corporate treasury fund. So can I use agentic workflows there to go ahead and come up with newer balance sheet optimization strategies and stress test those particular ideas, right? Before those particular balance sheet optimization activities can be taken. To put it into perspective, every single 1 particular basis point could probably be having a particular value of about $100 million in your P&L, right? So that becomes high stakes. So if you're able to go ahead and do just one use case, you have $100 million in your bank, right? So what we are looking at is basically one set of use cases which are transforming end-to-end high-impact journeys and workflows to aid employees. And the second is basically in terms of, okay, these particular high-stakes use cases.
Thank you. So as you touched on the high stakes and high value use cases, how does responsible AI and the guardrails, how do those play a role, and how are you as a regulated enterprises, how are you looking at those? What kind of guardrails are you putting in place at a high level?
Okay, so when it comes to any particular AI use case, specifically agentic AI, if it's got either a critical financial impact or it touches a customer directly, where a customer is directly engaging with that, these particular use cases have to be reviewed at the centralized AI council that we have, right? And there's a risk scoring that is basically given. So even before you start implementing the use case, you basically go ahead and look at reviewing it at the particular AI council. It's not an approve or reject body, but it's basically an advisory council itself, right? So that's basically where they go ahead and look at, okay, what are the kind of guardrails that are being implemented? How exactly are you going to go ahead and mitigate risks? Are those risks material in nature? That's one thing. And because we are a regulated industry, and I know HSBC also is there, part of that. Within Singapore, we have field guidelines, right, which is given from MAS. So we have to comply with those in terms of, okay, whatever the regulatory standards that are there. So those are typically what defines in terms of whether we go ahead with a particular project. With agentic AI, given that there are hallucination risks and the kind of risk associated with prompt injection and whatsoever, there's a slightly heightened reservation at this time, but that is as is with any other newer technology, like when traditional AI models were being built several years ago, it was the same thing. So we don't look at it differently.
Wiming and Pan and Madhukar, your thoughts very well.
Actually, one thing is about the evaluation, AI evaluation standpoint. Also, AI, we also just joined AI Verify. So with the intention of really upping our game in AI verification. So this is something that we are exploring not only at our LPU level, but even at the group level, such that we can almost in a way, I wouldn't say standardize, but rather make AI evaluation more of commodity throughout the entire AI group. And so this is a journey. And of course, processors, MAS just launched their AI RG this year. We not launch, will launch this year. And so we are anticipating that and setting out our various processors and account servers and global boards accordingly. But I think underlying that is our technical staff needs to go beyond just building the model, but also be careful about reputation, valuation, knowing the risks, pros and cons of it, etc.
Thank you. Very quickly from Fire and Madhukar.
I can only echo with what Adi and Mimi shared. It's more a risk-based approach. Internal facing low risk, I think we do not vary so much, but external facing means to ensure the evaluation is that one thing we have done last year is that because we are trying to develop a tool for advisors, although it's not completely external, but advisors, insurance companies, advisors is not considered as internal staff as everybody sitting here. So we engage risk and compliance team pretty early. But we start to form the use case. We already engage them just to align the test cases. Because these test cases, edge cases are coming from risk and compliance more than the advisor user themselves. So that's one framework that we actually benefit quite a lot.
Okay.
I'll just add to what Paddy said, because we are also a bank and very heavily regulated. We also work with MAS with their overall regulatory framework. So one thing is obviously having these different governance forums at a group level, at a business level, to make sure that we have the right scoring, and basis on the scoring, we can do principle-based approach and advise what to do, what not to do. But we are also investing specifically in scoring the models itself and looking at the risk the model put when that model is put into a particular workflow. And this risk scoring mechanism is not a human-based; it's actually tool-based. So it actually can tell how much hallucination is there, how much biases are there in the model, whether that model will actually operate in a particular stress environment or not. So there are now tools available in market who can also test the models and give us those kind of results rather than just humans judging a particular use case in a governance committee. So that's like extra step we are doing in HSBC, exploring those models and those tools to put in place.
Wonderful, thank you. So just maybe we'll end on the last topic of the day, just maybe one more, whether in terms of workforce, right? So I'll maybe just have Wiming and Paddy just respond to this. Just want to hear, is there a role in your organization that did not exist 2 years ago that exists now, and vice versa?
Existing. No, I think with LLMs today, I find that our tech teams are actually quite, even without statistical training, you are actually quite capable of building up our AI app today. I think that is both good and bad. Okay, in the sense that now that we can create a lot of different types of use cases and to apply in more parts of the company rather than from just the CoE. But the flip side to that is that perhaps without that formal statistical training, the verification and the validation part actually, I feel like it suffers a little bit. And that's where I find that increasingly as the Analytics CoE have to work more with the AI engineers to actually ensure that that all these standards and with MAS communicate. will be upheld, and the IT are very good at processes. But when it comes down to the quantitative evaluation, that's where we have to work hard closer together. So I think this is something that is quite new in the recent years.
Interesting. Parik, on the flip side, are there things that are there 2 years ago not there?
So I think one of the things is, okay, the first questions, we haven't had any new roles that have been created, contrary to the belief that yes, there will be a prompt engineer role.
Maybe.
Yeah, so we don't necessarily look at it. But what has actually happened is that every single role that existed in a bank now has a de facto expectation that they are able to go ahead and think AI native. So if I'm going to hire a particular relationship manager, I would want to go ahead and start thinking, is that person able to go ahead and think AI native? If I'm going to hire a product owner or a product manager, I want to check whether that person is capable of thinking AI native using whiteboarding as an example, right? So I think the expectation of the newer roles are changing. If I'm going to hire somebody into a transformation role, I'm not necessarily going to talk about their consulting practice, but I'm going to think, are they able to go ahead and generate a consulting style report using Claude as an example, right? So I think those are kind of things that we are probably looking at. And that's basically what I mentioned as preparing your existing workforce for that particular role transformation is one of our core focuses. We are not trying to go ahead and look at centralizing the AI CoE with data scientists and filling that particular pool of resources. But we're trying to go ahead and look at, okay, can a particular relationship manager or a trader use AI on their own, or do they have the skills to reuse one of the assets that we've gone ahead and built within CoE, right? So how do you democratize that particular learning? How do you go ahead and make AI an extension of their role in the same manner that they would probably go ahead and use a PowerPoint or an Excel or something else, right? So that's basically the kind of skill level and role transformation that we are really looking at this time.
I just want to add, right, in HSBC specifically, we announced the Group Chief AI Officer. That's a new role many banks are now putting in the market, right? And it's just like a Chief Data Officer's role, right? So it's a second line role which can make sure the AI policies and AI principle-based risk management and the frameworks and the toolkit is standardized across the bank with the right strategic architecture, so everybody can use the same workflow to deploy the AI into respective journeys, or even use those tools into day-to-day journeys, right? So these are some new roles definitely in the governance as well in the second line AI management are definitely coming in. But rest I agree. I mean, there are no specific roles coming up now as prompt engineers or orchestrators, which industry expects, because it's getting embedded into the existing roles altogether as part of the roles and responsibilities.
Keep behind, please, your thoughts, and then we'll close the panel.
I just echo what everybody said. We do not see any new roles created in income, but the specific task expectations have changed with existing roles.
And judgment of the capability of the existing. Okay, that's a wonderful way to end it. Thank you so much. It was a really exciting panel. I think we covered many different topics on moving AI to production. We talked about the data foundations, touched a bit on the workforce. We could have gone all day on that, but we won't. So back to you. Is there any question from the audience?
We can take one question.
Hi, this is Vijay from Capital. The question is, I think the topic was how does, from POCs and POVs, how does it get into the industrialization? If you see over the last 30 years, technology has 2 or 3 major sort of, midpoints. First being the internet in, before the, .com whatever. The second was the cloud, right? Let's say 10, 12 years, depending upon what your journey is. If you compare those 10, 12 years back journey versus now, do you think it's easy to implement AI or any other new technology into the production system as compared to it was 10, 11 years back? Because that's the right way to measure. We can't say that AI is difficult in production. Let's see what was there in cloud and how does it fare now.
Well, I can answer that question. I was in started before joining HSBC for 8 years. And we were building the enterprise data warehouses in Hadoop, in Teradata, and all those technologies. And we were just thinking about how we can go cloud native with the AWS or different available places. And when I joined HSBC 2 years back, and we were just starting the journey to build a centralized data lake, and we used mesh architecture to do that, just to make sure that we democratize the data ingestion and distribution. It just took us 2 years what I was trying to do in 8 years in Stanchart, right? So I can just give example that definitely what we were trying to do 10 years back is now, I mean, much shorter with the tech stack which is available, and also with the agentic AI which is available to do the coding and build the pipelines and orchestrating the workflows is just now has really gone down by tens or at least hundreds of times.
Well, thank you.
Names I tried. I cannot really say about the internet. I think I'm a bit too young for that. But to actually draw a comparison against, let's say, even 10 years ago, we talk about analytics, right? So the cloud analytics really sprung out around 2016-ish. But I think there's one key difference today versus last time is that we have been prepared for this, in the sense that we have been preparing our data lakes and data files and all for the last like almost 10 years, because the previous boom was in analytics and cloud. And that one now in AI, we are actually building on the same foundation. So which is why I think that that's one factor why it's so much faster today. The second thing is that AI is very accessible to everyone in a sense that everyone can play around with it. And cloud will be, or even machine learning is a foreign concept to most people, whereas AI is something that everyone can relate to. I think the danger now, at least for what I'm facing, is that actually that it is too accessible in the sense that there's just too many for lack of a better word, too many random ideas popping out everywhere. And that's where we have to really sieve out what is of value and what is really worth investing in. And so now we have no lack of ideas, and that's what I feel. And that also fuel up the So I think in short, I would say that yes, it's really a lot faster, but there are also many factors that allow these things to go.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. That was fantastic, panelists. Thank you very much for your time.